Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudire. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Nar Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasdev, the author. Ashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhakti Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, verse 13. Share on Zoom. तुल्यमानलेनापि न सर्वं न पूर्भवम् भगवत्सङ्गीसङ्गस्य मर्त्यानां किम् उताशिषा तुलायामलेवनापि न सर्वगं नुपुनर्भवम् भगवत्सङ्गीसङ्गस्य मर्त्यानां किम् उताशिषा तुलायामलेवनापि न स्वर्गं न पुनर्भवम् भगवत्सङ्गीसङ्गस्य मर्त्यानां किम् उताशिषा. One line repeat. Synonyms together. Tulyamana, to be balanced with. Levana, by a moment. Api, even. Na, never. Gam, heavenly planets. Na, nor. Apuna bhavam, liberation from matter. Bhagvat Sangi, devotee of the Lord. Sangasya, of the association. Martyanam, those who are meant for death. Kim, what is there? Uta, to speak of. Ashisha, worldly benediction. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The value of a moment's association with a devotee of the Lord cannot even be compared to the attainment of heavenly planets or liberation from matter, and what to speak of worldly benedictions in the form of material prosperity, which are for those who are meant for death. I was listening to a lecture where it was mentioned that this verse comes verbatim verbatim repeated in the fourth canto. So this is one of the, I mean, every verse is an important verse, but yeah. So since it's mentioned by Sukadeva Goswami twice, once here and one time in the fourth canto, and it makes for us important that we doubly understand or doubly study it, right? So let's read the purport. When there are some similar points, it is possible to compare one thing to another. One cannot compare the association of a pure devotee to anything material. Men who are addicted to material happiness aspire to reach the heavenly planets like the moon, Venus, and Indraloka, and those who are advanced in material philosophical speculations aspire after liberation from material bondage. When one becomes frustrated with all kinds of material advancement, one desires the opposite type of liberation, which is called apunarbhava or no rebirth. But the pure devotee of the Lord do not aspire for the happiness obtained in the heavenly kingdom, nor do they aspire after liberation from material bondage. In other words, for a pure devotee, the Lord, pure devotees of the Lord, the material pleasures obtainable in the heavenly planets are like phantasmagoria, and because they are already liberated from all material conceptions of pleasure and distress, they are factually liberated even in the material world. So, kind of two important words when everything is important, but kind of stressing here. Um, so, if someone were to ask us that why are we in bhakti, what would be the answer? The food. where, why are we here where we are? Well, in this path. Okay. And how did we get here? Let me put it that way. When? So this was I was listening to a class and the speaker mentioned there's a conversation between Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and he mentions and he was asking he was there's a conversation, I forgot who the other person is. Then he asks this person that, so how did we get here or in bhakti, and the person says that um, we got here because were we did some devotional service in our previous life, right? Um, then Chakravarti Thakur says that, well, then how did you get to bhakti in that life? That person was, well, I did bhakti in my previous life. So, it goes back and back. But there is something that we did in one life. Something happened in one particular lifetime that changed the whole course of us. And that is why we are sitting here. uh, and what is that happened there? You met a pure devotee. We, we meet pure devotees now also. We meet pure devotees now also. Start. Mm, okay. Then, as I heard, then he says, okay, well, by you got to bhakti because, as you said, you got association of a pure devotee. But then, um, is it just by association? Because we get association now also. And there is obviously whenever you associate with a pure devotee, there is some transformation. We were talking about like the D-Day or time zero. What happened to us, right? So the answer is, and then this conversation goes on, and then he says that um, that pure devotee gave us a piece of their bhakti. They transferred us a portion of their bhakti towards Krishna to us. That's how we got that, the D-Day or the starting point was we got it from pure devotee, right? And obviously, then it's it's mercy coming from that pure devotee. But in a sense, mercy um, is you can say faith, transferring of bhakti. But then the real essence is when we knew nothing in some particular life, we by some great fortune came across, and he doesn't even, in the lecture that I heard, he doesn't even say that a pure devotee, he just says a devotee. By some great fortune we came across a devotee, and then that devotee, uh, in that association, was able to give us a glimpse of bhakti. So they transferred something from their bhakti to us, and that's what we hooked on to. Does that make sense? Making sense? Yeah. Right. Yes, yes, of course, yeah. And in one sense, it makes that, when they gave us mercy or whatever, they awakened our bhakti from. Yes, of course. As every spirit soul, we always have bhakti in us. Yes. Um, and then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that um, Krishna's bhakti follows, Krishna's mercy follows the mercy of a devotee. And he gives the example of how a thread follows a needle. Like now they're pretty close together if you're doing garlands or whatever. The thread follows the needle, right? And in this sense, whenever we have the mercy of a devotee, it means that we have mercy of Krishna. Kind of goes in tandem. Um, Another interesting aspect of what I was hearing is he talks about this word here. What's most important, then it makes us, or anybody who transforms, who is in bhakti, is these words: Bhagavat Sangi, devotee of the Lord, Sangasya, of the association. Words. Um, because Gaurang Prabhu says this, that he asked a question that who is a fortunate person? Who's a fortunate person? He says, if you can chant the name of Krishna, you are fortunate. Okay? Then he says, who is more fortunate? that chanting means attentively. It comes with it. Okay. Whatever I do, I'm not talking about you. Whatever I do is not at all chanting. I think so. Um, then he says, well, a more fortunate person is someone who is in gets to do service and chant, right? So if you are someone who is not doing any service and just chanting, then there's some progress to that. But he then asks the question that who's most fortunate. So he goes from fortunate, more fortunate, and most fortunate. Who do you think is most fortunate? Yes, he kind of mellows it down in one sense because we all can and cannot render direct service to pure devotee, right? I mean, you can say as Prabhupada says, obviously, but someone like a spiritual master, probably not accessible every time, right? In one sense, directly. But he says a person who can chant and do service in the association of devotees is the most fortunate person. That was reminding me of these two words, Bhagavad Sangi and Sangasya, association of the pure devotees of the Lord. So everything starts with association, and in this world also we see, um, uh, Krishna, he is like ye tamam prapadante. If you have faith, well, I'll reciprocate. If you don't, I'll just let you be in your own bubble. I'll not disturb you. Yeah. Yes, yeah, yeah, for sure. But he will react or respond to you in the way you approach him, in one sense. But even more merciful than Krishna are his devotees, right? We're like try to call people to program. Hey, Prabhu, come to the program. Like, busy. I'm gonna go watch the movie another Sunday. Hey, Prabhu, there's a Sunday feast. Please come to the program. It's like, today no, there's a India-Pakistan cricket match, so I'm not coming today. And Krishna is like, oh, forget him. He's not coming. I'll not worry with him. But a devotee, the third, fourth time, hey, there's a Sunday feast. You want to come? So devotees are persistent, right? They're like uh, even more merciful than Krishna in one sense. That they're relentless in their efforts to get someone connected to the path of bhakti. I was hearing a lecture from Nitai Sevani Mataji, and she was saying that if you want to, she asked a question that what is the easiest way to please Krishna? We said, well, do service. You could do, deity worship. You could do cooking, so many other things, book distribution, so on and so forth. But the answer she gave is that you can please Krishna the most when you get someone to Krishna consciousness or when you tell them about Krishna. Doesn't matter who they are, doesn't matter what they're doing. In some way, shape, or form, if you are able to tell um, one person in a day about Krishna, well, not just other devotees, that's pretty easy. But apart from devotees, if you are able to tell one person about Krishna, then she says Krishna is very pleased with you. I say, wow, that also seems like a task, right? These days, telling one person about Krishna. Okay, we'll come back to our verse. Where were we? When one becomes frustrated with all kinds of material advancement, one desires the opposite type of liberation, which is called apunarbhava or no rebirth. But the pure devotees of the Lord do not aspire after the happiness obtained in the heavenly kingdoms, nor do they aspire after liberation from material bondage. In other words, for the pure devotees of the Lord, the material pleasures obtainable in the heavenly planets are like phantasmagoria, and because they are all liberated from the material conceptions of pleasure and distress, they are factually liberated even in the material world. And this verse is kind of similar to um, the famous verse, right? Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoy, Love Matra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi. Um, so, in one sense, externally, everything starts when you associate with a person. And as we see in other aspects of life, also, if you're, I mean, I have a little bit of experience of this. Whenever you are with a person who is like very passionate in getting things done, like in a material sense, their energy is so high that you'll be affected by it. and then when you come back like to your workstation, or when you start working, you're like, I need to get this done, need to get this done. And then by evening you pause and think, hey, what, I'm not this, like, I've been hurrying, like I spent the 4 hours trying to achieve this thing. uh, then we reflect that, "Jai Shri Shri Raj Bhanu ki Jai, Shri Shri Tanavdeep Chandra Bhagwan ki Jai." Then we reflect that, well, this is because I was in association of someone who transferred their um, rajasic energy onto me. Rory. This means that the pure devotee of the Lord is engaged in transcendental existence, namely the loving service of the Lord, both in the material world and in the spiritual world. As a government servant is always the same, either in office or at home or at any place. So a devotee has nothing to do with anything material, for he is exclusively engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord. Since he has nothing to do with anything material, what pleasure can he derive from material benedictions like kingship or other overlordships, which are finished quickly with the end of the body? And this again goes, for all pure devotees, you could say that, and for us too, we are, what do you say, in this world but not of this world. And another sannyasi says that we're not, everybody does some kind of yoga and some kind of practice to, gain peace, spirituality, whatever people call outside in the world. Um, Even beer yoga, right? Goat yoga, whatever. They do that to get a spiritual experience, some sort of feeling light, feeling peaceful, whatever people call them. In essence, if you combine all that, they say that we're trying to gain some sort of spiritual experience. But Maharaj says that uh, we are not uh, human beings having a spiritual experience, but we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And that is very profound to think upon, right? We take um, everything associated with this body so seriously that we uh, fail to understand that we have been, or we are eternal part and parcel of Krishna, and then whatever happens to us in this life is, as said in this verse, is, doesn't matter. And when Prabhupada was asked that, Prabhupada, where are you going next? You know what Prabhupada answered? Like, after ISKCON, like when he was leaving his body, and nobody's asking, where are you going next? Prabhupada said, I'm going to hell to have ISKCON there. I need to preach there, right? I mean, just look at his consciousness, the mood, the thought that he's having. Always wants to preach, always wants to give the message of Krishna. Um, and if we could emulate that, even a small piece of the thought process as to um, engaging ourselves in giving Krishna to others, and obviously that's part of devotional service, then we will be exactly as this example given here by Srila Prabhupada, as a government servant, whether they are at home, office, or any other place. So similarly, we have nothing to do with anything material. This is just a passing phase. Then um, we're on a journey, and this is just a stop, and we have to continue from here on. Since he has nothing to do with anything material, what is the pleasure that he can derive from material benedictions like kingship or other overlordship, which are finished quickly by the end of the body? Devotional service is eternal. It has no end because it is spiritual. Therefore, since the assets of a pure devotee are completely different from material assets, there is no comparison between the two. So the Goswami was a pure devotee of the Lord, and therefore his association with the rishis in Naimisharanya is unique. In the material world, association with gross materialists is veritably condemned. That's what we have to do, but the materialists are called Yosit Sangi, or one who is much attached to material entanglement, women and other paraphernalia. Such attachment is conditioned because it drives away the benedictions of life and prosperity. And just the opposite is Bhagavad Sangi, or one who is always in the association of the Lord's name, form, qualities, etc. Such association is always desirable. It is worshipable, it is praiseworthy, and one may accept it as the highest goal of life. And this is so true, right? Um, if you think about a basic, simple example, most of the things in life, most of the very, very important things in life or for survival are given by Krishna and are free, right? Food, obviously, we purchase the food, but it doesn't come in a lab, right? It goes because of Krishna. The air that we breathe, right? We can't um, even live for a second or a minute without air, or even water. So most of the things that are very important for survival of this particular body are also free and provided by Krishna. Whereas the material objects that we can see, that everyone hankers after, or puts in so much effort to get, they that Prabhupada is talking about here is they end. Whether someone wants to become a CEO, or as Prabhupada talks about in this verse, um, wants to become kingship or other overlordship, um, that is insignificant because it will end with this particular body. And then it will have to, whatever you do, material, will have to start from the same thing. Prabhupada again gives this example, right? I have a PhD, so in next life, I'm not going to be born with my degree, right? I'm going to start again with A for apple, B for ball, right? So it doesn't matter. But whatever bhakti we do is, but whatever devotional service we do, it is acquiring. It is like credit. You you're improving your credit score, right? The goal is to get 850. That's the correct score, right? That's the highest. 850. I think so. Yeah, 850. Yeah, 850. So, so 850 for us, for devotees, should be a current score of, like a pure devotee. At least, you do pure devotional service, um, without any ulterior motives. And if you could do that, at least one name, who was saying this? Amoglila Prabhu. No, not Amoglila Prabhu. Amarendra Prabhu was saying this, that even if you chant one name of Krishna in the 16 rounds, Hare Krishna, even if you do that one with feeling, with attentiveness, you'll make progress. We chant 16. I'm talking about myself. Chant 16, but it doesn't feel like any progress. So if you could do that, then we're definitely on the path. Okay, any questions or comments? Any additions? Bolenga Prabhuji, anything you would like to add? Mataji, you want to add something? On Zoom, any questions, comments? Otherwise, we can end it here. Hmm. Hmm. Right. Hmm. Doesn't matter. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't matter. And Prabhupada, so many, his life was all about it. He was in different places, but the angle or the way he thought was so full of Krishna consciousness. He was always thinking about Krishna. I was just talking to Prabhu, I think last week. Once, all Prabhupada devotees were with him. They were chanting, and then Prabhupada he was he was looking somewhere, like he was thinking. One of his devotees asked him, Prabhupada, what are you thinking about? Prabhupada turned to him and said, I'm wondering what did Krishna get for lunch today? No, that to me was like, it's just a simple thing, but it is so profound. Like we keep thinking like, okay, what I'm gonna do now? I have work, I have this meeting, I have to go here, I have to do groceries. Like that's our wondering. But look at Prabhupada, he's like, what has Krishna got for lunch today? Like, whoa, that's like a pure devotee, right? We hope that one day we will, think about, oh, आज भगवान क्या कर रहे हैं, so personal that what um, what can I do for Krishna? Okay, well, we can end it here. Thank you everyone for your patient hearing. Vanchakalpatarobish kripa sindhunevcha patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavibhyo.